World War II, a conflict of unprecedented scale and ferocity, left an indelible scar on humanity. From 1939 to 1945, the world bore witness to a conflict that engulfed entire continents, leaving millions dead and countless others grappling with the physical and psychological wounds of war. The war's insatiable appetite for destruction knew no bounds, reducing cities to rubble and shattering the lives of ordinary people caught in its crossfire. Amidst the chaos and carnage, a darker chapter unfolded, one marked by unspeakable acts of cruelty and barbarism. Both Axis and Allied forces, driven by ideologies of hate, vengeance, or wartime necessity, committed acts that transgressed the very principles of humanity. These crimes, often hidden from public view during the war, would cast a long shadow over the decades to come, forcing the world to confront the darkest aspects of human nature. The sheer scale of the atrocities committed during World War II is staggering. From the systematic extermination of Jews in Nazi-occupied Europe to the brutal mistreatment of prisoners of war in the Pacific Theater, the war witnessed a horrifying disregard for human life. These acts of violence were not merely the result of battlefield frenzy, but often meticulously planned and executed as part of broader campaigns of terror and subjugation. Understanding the crimes of World War II is not about apportioning blame or judging the past through the lens of the present. It is about acknowledging the depths of human depravity, learning from the mistakes of history, and ensuring that such atrocities are never repeated. The echoes of these crimes continue to resonate today, reminding us of the fragility of peace and the importance of vigilance in safeguarding human rights and dignity for all. The atrocities perpetrated by Nazi Germany, particularly against Jews, remain seared into the collective memory of humanity. The Holocaust, a systematic and state-sponsored genocide, resulted in the extermination of approximately 6 million Jews who were deemed enemies of the Nazi state. From the horrors of the death camps, where innocent men, women and children were murdered in gas chambers and mass shootings, to the Einsatzgruppen, mobile killing squads that terrorized Eastern Europe, Nazi Germany's crimes stand as a chilling testament to the dangers of unchecked hatred and totalitarian ideology. Beyond the Holocaust, Nazi Germany's crimes extended to other groups deemed undesirable by the regime. Roma and Sinti people, homosexuals, the disabled and political opponents were also subjected to persecution, imprisonment and mass murder. The T4 program, for example, aimed to systematically eliminate individuals with physical and mental disabilities deemed a burden on the Aryan race. These victims, often forgotten in the shadow of the Holocaust, serve as a stark reminder of the Nazis' chillingly comprehensive vision of racial hygiene. Imperial Japan, driven by its own imperialist ambitions and a sense of racial superiority, also committed unspeakable atrocities during the war. The Nanjing Massacre, a 6-week rampage of murder, rape and looting by Japanese troops in the Chinese city of Nanjing, stands as one of the most horrific episodes of the conflict. Estimates of the death toll range from hundreds of thousands to as many as 300,000, with countless women subjected to sexual violence. Japanese atrocities extended far beyond Nanjing, encompassing a vast swathe of Asia. The use of forced labor, often under brutal conditions, resulted in the deaths of millions of civilians across Southeast Asia. Unit 731, a secret Japanese biological and chemical warfare research unit, conducted horrific experiments on prisoners of war and civilians, including vivisections and deliberate infections with deadly diseases. These experiments, often resulting in excruciating deaths, were shrouded in secrecy and only came to light after the war. While the atrocities committed by the Axis powers rightly occupy a central place in our understanding of World War II's dark legacy, it's crucial to acknowledge that the Allied forces were not without blemish. While fighting a just war against tyranny, Allied forces also engaged in acts that violated international law and resulted in the suffering of innocent civilians. The Allied bombing campaigns, particularly the firebombing of German and Japanese cities, resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of civilians and remain a subject of moral debate to this day. The forced displacement of ethnic Germans from Eastern Europe after the war, while justified by some as retribution for Nazi crimes, resulted in widespread suffering and loss of life. The expulsion of millions of Germans from their homes, often under brutal conditions, serves as a reminder that even in victory, the line between justice and vengeance can be blurred. The Soviet Union, under the rule of Joseph Stalin, committed its own share of atrocities during and after the war. The Katyn Forest massacre, in which thousands of Polish officers and intellectuals were executed by the Soviet secret police, remains a chilling example of Soviet brutality. The Red Army's advance through Eastern Europe was often accompanied by widespread rape and looting, leaving a trail of trauma and resentment in its wake. Acknowledging these transgressions is not about equating the actions of the Allies with the systematic horrors of the Holocaust or other Axis crimes. It is about recognizing that war, even when fought for a just cause, can corrupt even the most noble of intentions. It is about acknowledging the complexities of history and ensuring that our understanding of the past is nuanced and complete. In the aftermath of World War II, the international community grappled with the enormity of the crimes that had been committed. The Nuremberg trials, held in Germany from 1945 to 1949, marked a watershed moment in the pursuit of international justice. For the first time, high-ranking political and military leaders were held accountable for war crimes, crimes against peace, and crimes against humanity. The trials, while imperfect, established the principle that individuals, regardless of their position, are responsible for their actions, and that impunity for such crimes would no longer be tolerated. The Tokyo trials, held from 1946 to 1948, sought to bring to justice those responsible for Japanese war crimes. While the trials resulted in the conviction of several high-ranking Japanese officials, including Prime Minister Hideki Tojo, critics argue that they failed to fully address the scope of Japanese atrocities, particularly those committed by Emperor Hirohito, who was granted immunity from prosecution. The legacy of World War II's crimes continues to shape the world today. The Holocaust, in particular, serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of anti-Semitism, racism, and intolerance. International Holocaust Remembrance Day, observed annually on January 27, serves as a solemn occasion to remember the victims and to reaffirm our commitment to preventing future genocides. The crimes of World War II also underscore the importance of historical memory and education. By remembering the victims, confronting the perpetrators, and understanding the historical context in which these atrocities occurred, we can learn from the mistakes of the past and work to create a more just and peaceful future. The words "never again" must be more than just a slogan. They must be a call to action, a commitment to vigilance, and a recognition that the fight for human rights and dignity is an ongoing struggle that demands our unwavering attention and resolve.